Hello and welcome to today's show and tell. And today we'll be talking to James Bohr, who's created a ransomware game using Chat GPT. I don't know much more about it than that at the moment. So yes, James, why not introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've created?
Hey, so the game itself was developed originally as a way to teach people ransomware and dealing with ransomware scenarios. So it's not designed to be a particularly balanced or fair game, but people do seem to enjoy it. And one of the aspects of it was having someone available that you could negotiate with, try and do actions which weren't controlled by the rules of the game, and talk your ransomware provider, for want of a better word, into giving you a discount or decrypting something for free, whatever it might be. But obviously, that then required a person there. So I played around a bit with ChatGPT and got to the point where actually I had a usable chatbot which could do the negotiation well enough to get by for the game. And there's still work to be done on it, but it does work reasonably well for now.
Okay. And how are you thinking about using it? How will people get access to it? What can people do with it?
So normally people book me to run these sessions, although I'm talking about licensing them out. And it's simply a case that if they have the right subscription for ChatGPT, they can get access to it. You go onto it, you explain the scenario you're working with, what the ransom is, and then it begins negotiation.
Excellent. So what we can do is we can add your contact details um, on the post that will go with this video, and people can get in touch with you if they want to move further with that. Cool.
That's it.
So do you want to go ahead and show us what it does?
Right. So let me just switch around. See, that's visible. So the ransom for this one is
Okay, so I can see at the bottom that you've put in that you represent a company called Venture Energy, and that the ransom is 600,000.
600,000. So they've encrypted six different assets: uh, customer billing system, customer database, HR system, a few others. One of the ideas of the game is that it is set up so that you can't recover everything, or at least it's very difficult and requires a lot of luck to recover everything. So it's getting people to focus on what's the most important thing, what will
Right.
make a difference, and that depends on the company. So Venture Energy, obviously, you want electricity to be supplied. That's first and foremost the
Yeah.
thing that they exist for.
Yeah.
So some basic advice.
Okay. So you've set this up as under sort of my GPTs, and you've given it some training. Yeah.
So it just has some basics of the structure of the game. There's a few random elements to it, so the attitude will depend on how it's feeling or depend on particular chances.
Mm. So is it always set up to give this kind of setup, the initial assessment?
Not perfectly
Runs.
predictable. Um, so sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay. But there's always some kind of sort of setup where it'll give you some information before you start.
And then after that, well, it's now decided that it's actually a specific ransomware provider, so Lockbit 3.0, which is one
Okay.
which is out there and floating around. It's been very wordy today.
So just to sort of summarize what it says there,
So
it's
it's
sorry.
offering a reduction of 100,000 per asset to 80,000 per, so 20% reduction. It invented that I offered 10,000, but sometimes that happens, and it's now waiting for a response to that.
Oh, and it's asking for payment in Bitcoin as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So you're now sort of pointing out that what's at stake. So you're saying the the attitude kind of can vary. So it sounds quite reasonable here, doesn't it? It's sort of recognizing the idea that is
But
it
it's
sometimes
being
less reasonable
reasonable.
than this?
Sometimes it is absolutely fanatical and will refuse to cooperate at all. So it is deliberately designed to be,
Yeah.
you could get in these situations, you can have someone on a bad day or you can have someone on a good day.
Mm.
And there's other things I've put in there. So there's options where if you're in certain or say that you're in certain countries, it will immediately apologize and decrypt everything if it's
Wow.
selected that, because that is something that happens. There are ransomware organizations who are prohibited from working in certain countries because they've got the ability to prosecute them. So if they find that they've affected a company with a branch there, they will immediately provide decryption because it
Oh.
puts them at risk. And all sorts of odd things like that. There's more and more that I'm adding to it as
So
time goes on.
they're behaving more like businesses than criminals then in that sort of situation.
There's a reason we call it organized crime, and
All
they are
right.
businesses. They've got call centers, they've got tech support,
Oh, I know they've got
they
call
have pe
centers.
yeah, they have people who will walk you through how to buy Bitcoin and pay them with it.
Wow. So they've got technical support.
Yeah. So
Wow.
all sorts of different things. Um, so that's the negotiation side, and then the rest of the game is quite straightforward. It's based on card turns. So you will have, let me do that. I did try the video earlier, but that didn't quite work.
Oh, right. So it's
Everyone
a sort
gets
of
a play sheet.
hybrid game then. Cool.
Yep, hybrid. You get a play sheet which gives you the details of the scenario, the assets, and the actions, and you will get 2 actions per turn, 5 turns in total, and take notes. And all that you do is go through the actions, decide where you want to allocate your budget in the time limit, and then draw a card depending on the action. So, as an example, alternative recovery would be we're trying to go out to people's laptops, people's at home desktops, whatever it might be, and see if we can get any of the data back. And in this case, great, someone from accounting happened to have the spreadsheet with all of the payroll data in, which they shouldn't have had, but we're not going to complain this time. Uh, in another instance, well, failure, and worse than that, through something that we've done, we can now no longer use the alternative recovery action.
Whoa.
So it is fairly straightforward. You've also got restore from backup, contact the regulator, which takes an action. And if you don't do it, then the regulator may become aware another way, which goes badly. Attempt to try and decrypt or reverse engineer the ransomware. Request additional budget because you've used up all of your budget, which I usually represent through piles of chocolate coins because that encourages people to embezzle them. Uh, Try and negotiate, restore from backup, or that's it. There
Oh,
are other things you can do, such as if you're restoring from backup, that will cost a certain amount. You can choose to use an action to test backup first, which will cost a lot less and tell you if it's going to be successful or not.
right, right. So how long does would the game take to play if somebody was wanting to run it within their organization?
So the first one usually takes half an hour to up to an hour. But then once people have got the hang of it, unless they're getting very involved in the negotiation, you can run through a game in about 15, 20 minutes after that. And
Right.
once people have been through once, they can just take control and run their own sessions. All you need is the play sheet, the cards, and some pens and something for the budget.
That was my second question I was going to ask about, because you'd mentioned that you go in and facilitate the games for people. Does it need a skilled facilitator, or can people run it themselves? So your answer would be, first time you need a skilled facilitator, and after that you've kind of got an idea about how to run it.
There are benefits to having the skilled facilitator
Yeah,
if you're using it as an educational piece, because obviously then you can debrief after different scenarios, explain what's going on. Mechanically, as a game, you can run it on your own. It's that extra context that makes it more useful.
yeah. So as you said, all you would need in that case would be that the pro version of Chat GPT, which would enable you, I guess, uh, to load up the training that you've done into a MyGDP. Is that correct? Okay. And then
That's
they can
correct.
run
So
it.
you have that, and then put a laptop on each team's desk, and if they take the negotiate action, they get 5 minutes to try and negotiate and see if they can talk it down.
Yeah, brilliant. And what kind of feedback have you had from people that you've run it with?
So I've had really good feedback from the game itself. People have pretty much universally enjoyed it, even the ones where they got really frustrated as everything just kept going wrong. And that is an important part of it, that it isn't
Yeah,
a balanced game.
yeah.
And
It's
for
not always going to
the
go well, is it?
yeah, and the negotiation has always been a massive draw for people. It's not necessarily something they'll do a lot of, but having it available just for an action or two here or there makes it much more immersive and realistic, because
Yeah.
it is meant to be stressful and frustrating and represent these sorts of scenarios.
And what are the different companies that you've got sort of loaded into the negotiation part of the game?
So there's a few different ones. Some are more important than others, let's say. There's hospital, power, water provider, all of the standard ones. There's a massive multinational, basically Amazon or something like Amazon, and a few others. One of my favorites is a tiny, small accounting firm, and that's, half a dozen employees, 20 or so clients, and they just tick through and they've been affected by it. And what's interesting is one of the ways that they'll often deal with it is look at their options, look at what they can do, because they've got very limited budget, rather than starting to try and spend on dealing with the situation. They'll often go to whoever's facilitating and say, look, can we just contact our customers, apologize to them, and say, could we get your financial data back so we can keep on running your payroll and all of the other bits, which is
Ah,
perfectly valid when you're at that sort of scale.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Cool. Well, that's. I mean, that I'm really impressed with it. It's inspiring me to go and play around with in the bowels of ChatGTP myself. So, is there anything else you want to that I haven't asked about that you want to tell us about the game and how it works?
I don't think so. It's very rules light and designed to be, and it's if you've got someone facilitating it, it's also designed to be open-ended. So you've got that whole role-playing aspect of if you think of something, you can try it. Another session we had, one of the companies put a lot of money into reverse engineering the ransomware and managed to do it and come up with a way to universally solve it, and then went out and started demanding the other companies pay them for it.
So effectively becoming a ransomware organization themselves. Yes. Wow. Is that an allowable option? I guess it is
It's
within the game.
allowable. It's within the game. They actually just wanted to take home some chocolate coins. So
Ah, well, yeah, yeah. If you give people the right incentive. So, we haven't really talked about what else it is that you do. So, obviously, I've mentioned that you've written this game. So, what's that within the context of what do you do? What do you offer?
So I do technology and security consulting. I run a small family company that's been doing that for decades now. But I also run a conference called Play Secure and have done for this will be the fourth year, but the third event. And that is centered around games, play, uh, bits of gamification and security and technology. So this came out of that and that experience with running that conference, getting people together to talk about it, because we had security experts, technology experts, game developers, people who'd written dice games to teach people risk management and all sorts of other things. And a whole load of different projects came out of that.
Cool. Okay. I knew about that already because I'm appearing this year. So that's in June, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, cool. And this video will definitely be out before June. It should be out in a week or so. So yeah, so let people know about that so they can get their tickets booked. Well, thank you very much, James. That's been really, really interesting. And yeah, I'm gonna. Is it possible to have for you to send me over a copy so I can have a play around with it and have a look at the guts of it and see how it works?
Yeah, I can.
Just for my
I can do
interest.
that. I can
Brilliant.
shoot one over.
Brilliant, thanks. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about it, and yeah, we'll let people know where they can get further details from you if they're interested in running it in their organisations. Thank you.
Thank you.